Very glad you came tonight to hear our panel speak. And then we'll do our presentation, and then you'll have a chance to network with each other again. So, good evening. My name is Brian Altschuler. I am very honored and humbled to be the president for this year for the American College of Healthcare Executives in South Florida. I am literally off a plane just yesterday from coming back from Congress in Houston. Anyone else here at Congress in Houston? And okay, a few people. So you see dedication, not only at Congress at the beginning of the week, but ending the week here with us locally. I really do have to put in a plug. They moved Congress this year to Houston. And although I love Chicago as a city, I have to tell you, Houston did an amazing job delivering on putting together a great backdrop for our conference. They held it at the convention center in the downtown of Houston. I never realized what a kind of food city Houston is. And by the way, the rodeo was going on with all of us healthcare folks in town. So the rodeo was happening, all the food scene was happening. It was quite an event. On top of not only really seeing where ACHE on a national level is going, and they are about 51,000 members and growing. Obviously doing a lot of great things from a national level to build leadership and to really strategize healthcare. That was very impressive to see. Brene Brown opened up the event and did an amazing job. So they had some really great speakers as well. And they even invited a lot of locals to speak at the breakout session. It's the first time I was able to speak at a national conference. They're really doing a lot of great things to try to bring people in. So I encourage you, if you have not attended Congress or you are a fellow, how many are fellows in the room? I know we have quite a few. Congratulations, and I don't want to leave anyone out. David, I want to congratulate you. Where's David? I just was talking to him a minute ago. David Suskin. You just got your fellow, right? You were on the list at Congress at getting your FAC 2024. That's who they're recognizing, the last year fellows. So congratulations. They recognize all of you. All right. I also want to take an opportunity, one, to thank Broward Health for hosting us tonight. We're going to give them an opportunity in just a minute to come up and tell you a little bit about the facility and the organization. Is Madison still in the room? All right, Andrew, you're my man, so get ready. Well, poor Madison, his little daughter is not feeling well at home, so we forgive him for doing that. He's putting his priorities in the right place. So, Andrew, you're on with the elevator speech in about 2 minutes. So, I am going to go ahead, and if this cooperates with me, I also truly want to get the opportunity to thank our sponsors. And you're going to have to forgive me because I am going to start reading these. If I miss one, Ryan, you are my backup to tell me I missed one because my vision is not the best. Aramark Healthcare, we want to thank them for being a platinum sponsor. Actually, Janesse, you're here. You can just correct me. Beck, US Acute Care Solutions, Memorial Healthcare System, NSU Florida are our platinum sponsors. Can we give them a round of applause? We do this at every meeting because we realize it's an association locally. We're able to put on such successful programs, and we're actually this year looking at bringing back our own summit. Charles has proposed doing a very cool weekend event and bringing together some cool things. We do our student case competition. Marla, I know, is here, and we have that coming up. I want to say, Marla, on April 12th is the date, if I'm correct. It's a Saturday, and it's going to be a memorial. They were very nice to host us down there. There are 11 different undergraduate and graduate programs. This student case competition gets fiercer. More colleges and universities participate throughout the state. And I want to say, Marla, is everybody Florida? We have some that come down from outside of Florida, right? Just Florida, okay. But from all over the state. So it's really been building and doing well. And it's because of our sponsors is the bottom line. They help us put these events on and help subsidize them. I want to thank my own organization, Baptist Health South Florida. Genentech, Abril, Broward Health, who's hosting us tonight, UHealth, More Visibility, the Department of Health and Management Policy at UHealth, Senior Nannies is new to us this year, thank you. VITAS is back, the Executive Masters on Health Administration at FAU, Nicholas Children's Hospital, Wellington Regional, and new this year too is our partners at HCA Florida. So again, a round of applause for them. We have our silver sponsors, Barry University, Cleveland Clinic, Jackson Health System, and South Florida Healthcare Hospital Association, and very grateful to them as well. Give them a round of applause. And our last sponsor, and very important sponsor, our media partner and supporter, Hospital News Healthcare Report. I have to tell you, let's give them a round of applause. So you'll notice they are very good to us. Part of the relationship we have with them is they do our member highlight. And I don't remember, I think it was my friend Paul, who is the head of the critical care units actually at Broward General. And he said to me one morning, he called me, and he's like, "Hey Brian, pictures on this newspaper in our nursing office. What did you do?" And I'm like, "No, it's a good thing. You didn't do anything bad. It's a good thing." It's like, "You're on the front page of the newspaper." I'm sure that's a good thing. But thanks to Charles and that group, it is a very good thing. So if you ever want to be highlighted, or there's something we don't know about you, we're always looking to highlight our members as well. So very grateful for all of that. I want to go ahead and highlight our board members. You'll see all these fine people up here. Do we have any board members in the room tonight? I know we've got a few of us here. Vanessa Charles is here, CJ, Marla's here. Please tell me I'm not missing anybody. I'm trying to scan the room here. I think I got the folks that are in the room tonight. And obviously Madison and Matt are our board members too, and are balancing family stuff tonight. All right. You can see we are quite strong. Actually, I am going to go here. We have 50,000 members. Actually, I told you this is about 51,000 now in Congress. They updated it. It's still about 76 chapters, offering 300,000 hours of education and networking. This is to the ACHE website, 8.7 million views, to 206,000 social media follows. Adrian is not in the room tonight, but we exceeded 5,000 locally. Our goal is to get to 6,000 this year. I think we're at about 5,300 roughly. 8.8 million communications with members, podcasts, and media mentions. A lot going on. For our local chapter, we have over 1,000 members locally. We have 139 fellows, 252 student members. And again, we've got to update this number. We're now at about 5,300 following us on LinkedIn. You're going to see here, this is kind of a slide we put together this year for 2025 and updated it. Our vision is to be the preeminent professional society for leaders dedicated to advancing health. Our mission is to advance our members and healthcare leadership excellence. And our values are around integrity, leadership, lifelong learning, diversity, and inclusion. We want everybody to have a feeling of connection with our association. One of the things I am most proud of is I'm kind of putting a roadmap together to engage new members on April 8th. Make sure you're following us on our website. You'll see a couple LinkedIn things and a QR code to get to there if you're not following us there, and also on our website. But we are doing a lot around getting members engaged this year. And one of the things we're going to start are member committees, because we know a lot of times, obviously we have limited board positions, but we have a lot of different things we're trying to do in the community and trying to do things through our local chapter. So we're going to start board committees and have folks getting kind of more engaged from that way. And that way we can pathway people to the board. This year we had more people put in nominations for board positions than we've ever seen before. So this is kind of a way for us to engage our members, kind of keep things moving, do more things around the community, and really kind of grow as a group. So engagement is a big deal for us. Education, as you'll see tonight, advancing our different skills. And networking, we've got a networking event coming up for May. We're very excited. For the end of the year, we're working with the Panthers and trying to put together an event with them. So we're really trying to elevate things and support different teams, patients, and the communities that you all serve as well. So you will see these different codes appear. I'm going to go ahead and we'll bring this up again at the end of the night, but you can scan either one of these with your camera phones and connect with us on LinkedIn or check out things on our website. I encourage you to do that frequently. We're always updating it. I'm going to go ahead and call up Andrew. He's going to tell you a little bit about our host site here and Broward Health. So please give him a round of applause.
Brian. And good afternoon, everybody. So I am Andrew Sinclair. I am the Director of Patient Experience and Support Services here at Broward Health North. I've been with Broward Health for about 10 years. I've been at this location for about 8. And we're doing some great things under the leadership of Matthew Garner, who is our CEO. He was in the room earlier. Unfortunately, he had to go home early and he wasn't able to speak today. So that's why he is not here joining us. And Madison Workman, our Chief Operating Officer, he's on daddy duty, so yeah. So I get to share a little bit about this lovely hospital that is behind us over here. So we're a 409-bed facility. We're a level 2 trauma center. For those who don't know, Broward Health serves the northern 2/3 of Broward County in partnership with Memorial Health. I saw some Memorial people here that serve our southern third. We've been working closely together over the past couple of months doing some better together things. But here at Broward Health North, some of our main core services are oncology, our neurosciences, orthopedics, general surgery, and vascular surgery. Doing a lot of updates to our building, so you can see that the building is about 2/3 painted, updating the facility from the outside, but also from the inside. We've got some other great additions coming along. Made some notes here so I couldn't forget. We're adding our new cath lab and EP lab, which should be completed by June of this year. Just passed our ACA 80% inspection. Our cancer center, which is outgrowing its portion in the back, is in phase 1 project completion, and we expect that to be completed by the end of this year. We're adding another CT and X-ray into our emergency department. We are a comprehensive stroke center, and we do more strokes in the northern 2/3 of Broward County than our counterpart down at Broward Health Medical Center every year. And one of our big wins coming up soon is a freestanding emergency room that will be standing up in Lighthouse Point. We should have that together by Q2 of 2026. And I don't know if you guys saw our medical office building next door, but we're going to be remodeling that to a new 100,000 square foot MOB with 6 floors. In the next year or two. So I'm attracting some of the physicians and also some physician relations people in the room. So we welcome you. Thank you guys for coming out to Broward Health North, and I hope you enjoy the panel.
All right, now we're going to have Charles come up here. He's going to introduce our panel and then enjoy the program.
Brian mentioned earlier that we're going to do something we haven't done before this year. First of all, let me introduce the Education Committee. I chaired the committee this year, Charles Felix. AJ, raise your hand. AJ is the coach and the chair-elect who will take me over next year. So this is one of the first program of the year. The summit that we talked about will probably take place in the month of June on a Saturday. And we're going to do 4.5 credits at that time. And the price will be very reasonable. So if you're planning for it, we're hoping to have at least 200 people at the event. I think that's happening with 4.5 credits on the Saturday. Saturdays work for people? Yeah. Good, okay. 3 panels, so we got a lot of work to do. So with that, let's get started tonight. I'm going to introduce our moderator, and he's going to take it over. Brian Wilson with the Vet Company. As we looked around for people who could help us and get this topic rolling, Brian stepped up to do it, and he's going to introduce the rest of the panel for you. Thank you.
Gotta turn this one off. Good evening, everyone. Welcome, and thank you, Charles, for the introduction. As you said, I'm Brian Wilson with the Vet Group, and we are a design and construction firm. We work with healthcare clients throughout the country, including Broward Health. We're very fortunate to have some projects with them that we referenced earlier. I run our director of the South Florida office, and I'm going to be the moderator tonight. And I'm going to go ahead and bring up the panel in just a second. But to start, I think I'm going to evoke my moderator privileges and change the topic for the night to be a little less serious. And we're going to go, it's almost Friday, so we're going to go with, instead of an hour and a half debate on what the best pet is, a dog, a cat, or a fish. Come on up, guys. No, we're going to keep it the way it is, the filming. See how you sit down there. So actually, each of the panel members, we're very lucky. Sustainability is a very serious topic, obviously, and we're here to speak in length about it. We have some great panelists with us here today to speak in detail to their particular experiences, and they're from different kind of backgrounds, which I think will make this a really interesting conversation. So I'm going to let each one of them introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about each of them.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for inviting me here this evening. My name is Charles Michelson. I'm a principal with the firm Charles Michelson Architects. We're a legacy firm here in Broward County, celebrating 49 years of business. And healthcare is an area of specialty for me. I'm actually a board-certified healthcare architect from the American College of Healthcare Architects. There are only 430 of us in the United States and Canada. So it's a pleasure for me to be here. Thank you.
It's great to see this turnout for sustainability. Everyone's get it. My name is Alan Horowitz. I lead the sustainability function at Aramark, bringing you the food and catering tonight. Aramark, as you may know, is a very large international food service and hospitality company. We operate across 10 different business sectors, including healthcare, but also colleges, universities, sports and entertainment, workplace, any number of thousands and thousands of locations. We operate under the roofs of our clients. My team is responsible for integrating our sustainability agenda across all of those accounts. I've been with Aramark for a little over 3 years. I actually spent most of my career in the pharmaceutical sector with AstraZeneca. I grew up as an environmental lawyer. I left the law and never looked back a long time ago to really focus on the business side of sustainability, and really is where my passion is. So I'm quite thrilled to be here. My 2 grandsons live 15 minutes up the road, so we're very convenient for me as well. So look forward to the discussion.
I'm Jonathan Beebe, Manager Staff for Operations for Robinson. We're a specialty healthcare and construction firm. Within the South Florida market, we have just over $1 billion in ongoing projects at the moment. And then, as globally, we're pretty much from Texas all the way up to New York. So, glad to be here. I'm more of a dog guy. Talk to that. No, I'm excited here to talk to you guys.
Thank you all. Yeah, me too, but fish is pretty easy, so maybe argue. You can go away. All right, let's jump right in. So we're going to start with you. Because you sound very nice. All right, so as you all heard, there's very interesting kind of backgrounds here, right? You have an architect, you have a builder, and then you have someone who's a sustainability expert that kind of works on the supplier side, but also on really the client side as well in a way. So you're getting very different perspectives. So I want to start by defining the word, right? So we're here to talk about sustainability. So what does sustainability mean to you as an architect?
Sustainability has several layers to it, so it's good to have a conversation at the beginning of this just to define what it means. A sustainable building needs to be available to the public in the case of an emergency. And that's especially true of healthcare facilities and municipal buildings that need to take care of the public when a natural disaster occurs or something else occurs. And that means it needs to respond accordingly and be designed accordingly. A sustainable building also needs to be designed in response to changes in the environment that we have. As our environment changes, the new buildings that we design need to take those into consideration and be safe from those changes in the environment, as well as when we remodel and improve, renovate existing buildings, which are the majority of the time in most of our healthcare facilities. And finally, sustainable design also impacts the environment, that we have to make good selections with regards to respect to the environment, with regards to the resources that we take and the garbage that we dispose of. And the design continues with regards to the health of the building and the selection of materials that respect the occupants, the patients in the buildings, and the employees of the building, so that the buildings are well, healthy, and augment the actions and work that gets done in every healthcare facility in the state.
We're going to go with the builder next, and we're going to end on the expert.
Sorry to follow Charles, but I mean, our approach is generally, it basically is that, we're in construction, as Matt says, we will leave the community and the facility a better place when we're done. So our focus is around that, and how do we minimize our impact to the community and to the project and reduce our footprint.
The expert says they got it right, so. Sustainability is a funny word. It can be a little polarizing too at times. Sustainability as a concept originated as a much broader term than it's being used. I think it'll be used here tonight. It originates, in fact, actually sustainability, the concept originates in the Bible in many ways, but the definition of sustainability was about how do we behave and live today in a way that allows people to thrive now and in the future. I mean, that's a very umbrella, high-level term. It's evolved in different ways. My favorite definition of a sustainable company has always been one that is committed to being around for the long term and deservedly so. And it's that that question of defining what does it mean to deserve to be around, that I think is what motivates all of us here, certainly what motivates me and my team and Aramark as a business. But sustainability, for practical purposes, is about what opportunities you have as a hospital, a business generally, to ensure that your day-to-day operations are aligned with your values and with the needs of people and the planet. And I know we'll dive deeper into that and really focus on the planetary, the environmental aspects of it, but it's important to think about sustainability in that broader context, because that's what's really motivating decisions and the values that are embedded in what we do day to day.
So we're going to kind of reverse order here, but how do you assist your clients in their sustainability programs? I think these will be very different answers from all of you, because the way that we all assist our clients is very different. Our firm is an architecture and construction firm, but I jokingly tell people all the time that I'm a professional meeting attender and emailer. But we have a very deep sustainability department that is experts in what we do and assists our clients in many different ways. And I think you all spoke to this a little bit. Sustainability means so much more than just green or LEED. It means a lot more than that. It means mental health on our job sites. It means so many different things. So how do you specifically assist your clients, your company specifically assist your clients with their sustainability programs?
Start down there. Perfect.
So, from a contractor perspective, there's many layers. So, we have different clients and different journeys when it comes to sustainability. And some will think they're not actually doing anything sustainable. They don't have a formalized process. But I will tell you, no matter what you're building, you have a level of sustainability built into your projects already. Every designer that we know is working around incorporating efficiency standards and sustainable well design and different practices. For Rob's work, we've been brought in where clients are really just trying to, in their construction departments, are trying to understand what should we be doing. And so we do have a director that is well more knowledgeable than I am about this. They can go in, she sits on the national panels, and we offer services where she'll go in and help educate our clients of, hey, this is what we're seeing, these are the trends, what legislation is coming around sustainable and well. So, that's, for the clients that are just really trying to figure things out, we offer those services, but then we have other clients that are so far down the journey, it's more of just aligning our practices with their practices. From how we build to how they manage their operations all the way through.
To build on that last point, it really is critical, and certainly the way we approach it, is to connect the dots between what services you provide, who you are, your own commitments, and what the client's priorities, footprint, is. I always say that our sustainability programs are a function directly and completely of what the client is bringing us in to do. Are we aligned with their goals, their commitments? At a practical level, we're a food service organization, food service, hospitality. So let's think practically about what that means in really 3 or 4 key areas. One, food waste. How do we operate in a way that minimizes food waste in the first place? And then we get into the details of this. How do we manage food that, while not being used for its immediate purpose, can still end up in the hands of people in need and address food security challenges? And how, at a minimum, do we keep it out of the landfill? And there are a variety of methods we use. So that's one category, food waste, which is always aligned with the commitments and values of our clients. 2, embarrassingly, plastic. How do we migrate as a food service organization, as an entity, as a society, towards more sustainable ways to deliver food? Whether it's plastic water bottles or styrofoam trays in a hospital setting, cutlery, etc. How do we transition to more environmentally preferable solutions, including reuse? But again, these are, we can get into it, these are complex challenges. And then the third bucket really is around climate. And how do we as a company help advance the goals, expectations of clients who want to do their fair share to address the climate challenges? And for us, again, it's about food. 70% of our carbon footprint is associated with the food we buy and serve. So how do we transition from higher carbon foods, which basically is beef, beef and lamb are by far the highest emitting foods, to more what we call plant forward? How do we expand options, not deprive people of the burgers, but how do we expand options to healthy, tasty, lower carbon, nutritious offerings? And that's really where we try to connect the dots. And it's a lot of detail behind all that, but at its essence, that's what Aramark is trying to do from a sustainability perspective.
As an architect, one of my most important roles is to act as a facilitator with you, our clients, on every project that we work on, so that we introduce the topic, we let you know what the state of the industry is, what best practices are at any given point in time, so that we can direct the design to achieve your goals, meet as many of the sustainability standards as we can, and somehow still bring the project in within a budget. Whether or not there is a specific sustainability standard anywhere, the industry itself is constantly evolving, and very easily, if you think back a few years, when was the last time that you had an incinerator working at a hospital? Like then a few decades back, every hospital had an incinerator. You got rid of that garbage and burned it because it was safer than transporting it anywhere. But sustainable design stopped that practice and we moved on to other forms of removing waste from the hospital. A very important component of sustainable design is making sure that we're educated in what the topic is, what your goals are, and then incorporating those into a project. In the past, and it's not only true with sustainable design, it was only true with, let's say, security in buildings. Before 9/11, security in buildings wasn't a priority requirement of any type of facility. I was once hired by Broward County to take a look at their emergency operations center and to determine how secure it was. After I visited the site, I told them that it would take a college fraternity about 90 seconds to get everybody out of the building and render it useless, because it was never a consideration at the point in time that it was constructed. That's how we're dealing with sustainable design in some of the older buildings we're working in, but it is part of what's happening every day. For example, if any of you work on projects additions to any of the buildings for your hospitals or medical buildings, you know that you needed to provide an updated survey. And Broward County has new finished floor standards with regards to the minimum flood criteria. Not only is it based upon the new FEMA maps, but it's the new FEMA map +1, which is a unique requirement of Broward County. So recently, and the requirement is if you're doing 50% of work in the value of the building, you have to upgrade the entire building. So recently I've been doing buildings, additions to buildings that are a different finished floor level, and then you have to ramp up to them, because in the case of a flood, everybody's moving from the lower part of the building up to the higher part of the building. But again, you need to be educated as to what components of sustainable design are important to the project you're working on, being able to communicate that to the team, and then we'll show you the way to move forward, we'll show you what the options are, we'll do some cost analysis for you to make sure that it's affordable and you really want it as part of the project. Because the other side of the coin is a lot of advertising that goes on with regards to sustainable design, and it's not really very practical and it's not really very affordable, so you don't want to go with the sexy ad just because that's going to hurt. You really have to base your decisions upon true, prudent information.
All great points. To kind of touch on that a little bit, a couple examples I think would be relevant. We have anyone here from Broward Health Medical Center by chance? All right, so you are very familiar with flooding, right? It's interesting, we're doing a project, we are taking a project across the street from the hospital, and that particular building, because of what you're speaking to, is going to sit 7 feet higher on the ground floor than where your current buildings are. So one of the issues there. But it kind of reminded me of the story, if you could share it, what you saw in New Orleans too. Just talk a little bit about how it would go.
So you know the disaster that occurred a few years back in New Orleans. They constructed a new hospital. As part of the design, in case the city floods again, there's actually exit doors on the 2nd floor of the hospital, so if a boat needs to pull up to it, they can float a dock and get people out of the hospital safely without bringing them down underwater. So, thinking ahead about what the potential catastrophe is and designing to make sure that the building is still occupiable and safe, that's one of the responses. The other response was all the electrical equipment is way above grade. It's not even on ground level. Some of the hospitals I work in here in South Florida used to have all their electrical equipment in a sub-basement. And over time, we recognized that that's not the best approach, and we renovated those hospitals. You get all that equipment that we used to put on the ground, above ground, and safe, away from potential damage and floods.
That really just touches on how broad a spectrum sustainability really is, right? So let's talk more specifically about the healthcare side of it.
We're asking more? Yeah, please.
I'll give you a good example just from a construction standpoint. Probably when you think about it, happens a lot of times. You'll see it in older buildings now where a lot of your mechanical systems are right across the roof. In which there was a time where that was maybe a good idea, but as storms got stronger and you have to deal with those type of events, it just takes one gust of wind, you're in a heavy storm, and you lose your whole hospital. And from a design standpoint, we see it where that's not the norm anymore, unless you just have to. But a lot of times, from a construction standpoint, the contractor might come in and say, hey, we can save you money if you let me run across the roof. And while it might be good short term, long term, it could really expose you to a lot of risk.
Well, it's been part of my career at Microsoft to supporting the sustainable design of data centers. And what strikes me is, listening to both of you guys, how dynamic and changeable these risk management and design decisions have to be, given how quickly those risks are evolving, how volatile the situation is. We think about 100-year storms, 1,000-year storms, but that's based on historic data that is not necessarily kept up with a rapidly changing environment. And I think, and this is something we think about as a supplier, a food service company, where and how we source food from, and to what extent is climate change affecting the availability of our supply, the resilience of our supply chain, and these are far from fixed challenges, and it's this continuous change that has to be integrated into everyday design and operations, which is, you know, exciting for those of us in business, but it's quite scary, and particularly in a hospital setting. I mean, given what's at stake, thinking ahead is critical. I mean, it's mission critical to hospitals and healthcare institutions.
Yeah, it touches all aspects of what we do, right? And so the question originally was, how are we assisting our clients? And so specific to us, we're assisting our clients with whatever is needed to make sure they're sustainable, right? And that means so much for us. You know, we're 100, you mentioned this earlier, we're a 100-plus-year-old company. We want to be around for another 100 years, right? So there's a sustainability aspect to what we do. It touches what we think about in design. It's in our brain when we're doing construction and we're trying to minimize waste. It's on our mind all the time in everything we do because we want to make it another 100 years. And then our clients have specific sustainability strategies that we assist them with, but even if they do not, we have a lot of clients who do not have sustainability plans. They are getting sustainability regardless. It's embedded into all of our processes. It's just how it works now. So let's switch gears a little bit. I'm going to come to you, Charles. And let's talk specific about patient and staff. So how does the culture of environmental sustainability affect patient and staff satisfaction? I think we have probably a lot of staff here. I hope no patients in the room right now. But,
Obviously, as an architect, I'm a proponent of good design. As a healthcare architect, I believe, and the evidence bears it out, that good design assists in positive clinical outcomes. That well-lit, well-functioning, attractive buildings helps lift the spirits of patients and helps the healing process move forward. There's also statistics that well-designed buildings improve the psychology of the people that work in our medical facilities. That with the space to do the job and a layout that allows good efficiency in operation and a lot of natural light comes in, actually helps retain staff at a facility, builds loyalty, and is a win-win proposition. So from that perspective, it improves morale. Good design improves morale. It helps keep staff longer, which helps the bottom line, because we know staff turnover is a very expensive proposition with regards to training and having new people and building new teams and camaraderie that goes along with that. Anything that has positive outcomes for the patient is always a win-win scenario. And we're able to do this by incorporating good design, well-designed buildings. Again, that's a selection of materials that don't off-gas. It's efficient and effective air conditioning systems. It's systems that get rid of germs and disease. It's designing spaces with more light. It's encouraging people not to use an elevator and staircases. If you take a look in the older buildings, every staircase is nothing but an unfinished block wall that's painted with epoxy paint. But in a new building, your emergency stairs are finished as if they were indoor open space. There's a little bit of conditioning in there. There's a window in the stairwell to allow natural light in. The stairs are finished, and it's designed as if it's meant for people to use on a day-to-day basis. And by using the stairs, you're healthier as well. So all those are components that go into the design of a building that helps with basically a positive feeling with regards to the building itself and the people that you work for. Because as I speak to government agencies, I do a lot of municipal work. And what I try to explain to them is how a government allows the building to be designed is basically a representation to the community about how they think about themselves. The same thing holds true with the healthcare environment. The buildings and facilities you provide to the public basically demonstrates subconsciously what your opinion is of the public and how you want to treat them. Again, my opinion is biased because I design these things, but I think it's not a stretch to understand the psychology of design goes far into the satisfaction of your patients and your staff.
Jonathan, I'm going to come to you to build on that, but also I think it's interesting to point out to the audience that you're building these facilities that the patients are going to be needing, right? There's a level to that, to what we do with healthcare that gives us a sense of satisfaction that we're helping the world out, right? But in addition to that, you're kind of faced with the challenge of your job sites, right? Which are, while you're building them, are in themselves hard to sustain, right? And so can you build on that and speak a little bit to us?
Like Charles was saying, it really just with patient care, we have the same approach when it comes to construction. Our most productive and highest morale projects are the ones where you have a good environment, where it's sustained and built. You're listening to them, you understand their concerns. A good example is like water bottles. There's challenges we deal with a lot of greenfield projects where having potable drinking water for the workers is you either have to do bottles or usually plastic bottles. So we developed, and it can be from a general contractor standpoint, it's usually one of the biggest sticking points. I know there might be one or two superintendents in here. It's like cleanliness of the job site. A clean job is a productive job, and we've got everyone working on the project want to come and work on a job that's organized and clean and has a good environment. So just like, for retaining staff, it's the same approach for us. It's hard enough to have enough workers to do what we're doing in today's market. We're trying to give them a better environment to work in. We've seen a higher retention rate. I was talking about the water bottles. We wound up doing a couple of jobs, and now we're trying to build multiple trailers of this. But we challenged our team to come up with, hey, what's a better way to supply good drinking water to all workers in the job site? So they developed a trailer filtration system, and this is a remote project where we were trucking in just pallet after pallet of water. And so they developed a hydration system on a trailer that was chilled, it was filtered, it was high quality drinking water. Wound up costing us like $25,000 a bill, which is not much. It's all ended up running an analysis where it saved us 50,000 of these water bottles. But what we could measure is what the morale. That's what's kind of the unmeasurable part. We saw an increase in morale, and that's a big part of what we're doing is ensuring that they have a great environment, which translates over to the quality of the work that's going to get installed, which then is going to translate over to the final piece of patient care.
Right before we started, I met somebody and she was asking me what we were going to talk about. I said, I have no idea, we're just going to wing it. And I'm sitting here thinking, actually, I'm going to wing this with three stories, actually only one of which has anything to do with Aramark. So we have lots of time, right? I'll abbreviate. So these are long, good stories, but I'm not going to bore you with. So my transition from an environmental legal career to business sustainability actually arose in a moment when, as a company, AstraZeneca realized and was getting questions from doctors and hospitals and others about the fact that we were finding trace amounts of active pharmaceutical ingredients in wastewater. And that also aligned with questions around what do you do with unused pharmaceuticals. This topic really became a topic of debate called pharmaceuticals and the environment. Actually prompted me to think about the connection between traditional environmental law and these issues that we had not really tackled as businesses. We didn't know what to do. There were no wastewater permits addressing these questions. There were certainly no regulations. And that's the end of the story.
So I got a loud voice. So the business came to me and to a number of, what do we do? What do we actually work harder to figure out what the consequence, what the risks are around the fact that these parts per billion quantities, literally 1 or 2 drops in an Olympic swimming pool, were being found. Now, intuitively, we say, well, that can't be a problem. But we also knew that pharmaceuticals are built, designed to be active, to have therapeutic and effects on the body. So the science, the logic of the science was, well, they may help. This may be an issue. And we did the research, and we did conclude that at some levels there were risks, although at the quantities we were finding, they were well below those thresholds, but it wasn't a binary yes or no scientific endeavor. And there was a large debate within the pharmaceutical industry that I was part of at the time. I actually led the environmental law section of pharma. The trade group, whether we as a company, as a collective industry, should establish private take-back programs. So take-back programs to allow people, and you see these now in communities, but they're not as widespread as they should be, to, you open up your medicine, we've all been there. You open up your medicine cabinet, and you find a pill that expired 10 years ago. What do you do with it? Now, if you're like me, I'm probably fine to take it. But I'm still not the patient yet. But anyway, the industry actually was very polarized on that for a lot of reasons. But the primary one was, how do you administer it? Now, there actually is now a framework for doing that many, many years hence. So that, to me, that was like the classic intersection between sustainability, environmental policy, and emerging questions, and healthcare. And it really inspired me to get much more integrated into the business side of our programs. And we ultimately created, out of that question in many ways, a sustainability program at AstraZeneca that now is thriving for all of the great reasons we're talking about. The second challenge that we had as we built the sustainability program is thinking about, okay, what is our footprint as
a pharmaceutical company? But what is our climate footprint? I just mentioned that Aramark's greenhouse gas footprint is basically mostly food. Okay, well, what would we think our footprint as a pharmaceutical industry, our company would be? You think about our operations, manufacturing plants, transportation maybe, etc. Turned out, as we dug deeper, we realized that one of our asthma drugs, which was delivered with an inhaler, had an accelerant that was a greenhouse gas contributor. It was a chemical that actually, as we did the math, had a significant contribution to our footprint. So, okay, where's the look at that challenge? There's some level of hypocrisy there. Here we are designing, developing, selling a asthma drug, a device that actually was contributing to the conditions that were causing asthma. It's circular. So we said, okay, how do we do that? Now, it's not easy to just flip a switch and say, okay, we'll just switch it out. I mean, as you know, it takes years and years and years to design and develop drugs, get them approved by FDA, et cetera. But it was a project that we committed to tackling, and ultimately, the company did switch out that ingredient. For us today as Aramark, it really does come back down to food. We think of food, it's our bread and butter, sorry. The reality of it is, as I said, there are high carbon foods like beef and lamb. There are lower carbon foods like vegetables and legumes, even chicken, other proteins. We don't want to deprive patients in a healthcare setting, but in any other context, of what they want to eat. But we also know that we can innovate recipes, menu items that have a lower carbon footprint, are just as more nutritious, have as high or higher protein content, and align, in a hospital setting, with patient health needs and habits, and our values as a company and our commitments, our targets around reducing the climate footprint of our food. We have a goal, which is called the Cool Food Pledge, in partnership with the World Resources Institute, to reduce our food-related carbon emissions 25% by 2030. It is a huge undertaking, very difficult to do. Just because of how intense the carbon footprint of beef and other ruminant meats is. But to me, that's, you think about how do we contribute to the sustainability of our clients, particularly a hospital like this one, it's through that lens.
Yeah, not to mention the packaging. Like that's
Why don't we start that too?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, all of these challenges, I mean, sustainability as a discipline is so complex because of the habits we have, the systems that have been created over many, many years, and the fact that for many of those years we didn't really think about the environmental or human health implications of it, at least not at a broad systemic level. Plastic, water bottles, I mean, sort of the poster child of this, but you think about styrofoam trays, you think about disposable cups and containers and plasticware. I mean, these are all contributing to microplastic challenges. They're ending up in landfills, in the oceans, and they are, through production, contributing to climate change. So the question becomes, how do we transition? These things are also quite cheap. Styrofoam is really, really cheap. And the challenge, and we talk about, well, sustainability, what's the ROI of sustainability? Sometimes it's nothing. Sometimes there is no ROI, other than intangible, is the right thing to do. But sometimes there are opportunities, and we can get into those. But for plastic transition, it often is not. I get another great story. So we introduced at headquarters in Philly, at Aramark's headquarters, a reuse program. And it's a turnkey, truly a circular program where we no longer use disposables. We have a service that comes in every day, brings a container, it's a reusable container, and we have a free lunch program. There is such a thing as free lunch, come work for Aramark. And great food, they often try new innovations with us, and a lot of food is consumed, and there's a lot of waste. Part of that free lunch program includes probably the best chocolate chip cookies on earth. They're called Hopes Cookies that are made in Philadelphia. And every day, these cookies were served in voluminous. I mean, if you wanted 10 chocolate chip cookies, you could have 10 chocolate chip cookies. And I have no willpower when it comes to chocolate chip cookies. So I was eating 8 to 10 chocolate chip cookies a day. And one day, it was not sustainable. I was going to become the patient again. So one day, the guy who runs this facilities program, among other things, a friend of mine, he calls me up and he says, "How much is our reuse program costing us?" So I told him. He goes, it's like every place. We're looking at the budgets and blah blah blah. I'm like, dude, there's no way we're changing it. We're not getting rid of this reuse program. It actually took years to get it on board, and people love it. I mean, again, it makes people feel great to know that they are not contributing to waste problems. He goes, "Yeah, but we got to find some money." I go, "Let me ask you a question." I go, and it just dawned on me, how much does it cost us to supply endless amounts of chocolate chip cookies every day? And he told me the number. I said, that's within $500 of the cost of this program. Get rid of the freaking cookies and keep my program. He said, okay, deal. That's what we did.
That's fantastic. All right, we're coming to you, Charles. So specific to healthcare projects, what tools have you implemented that made sustainability more effective?
Interesting question. To make it more effective means that what I do in my office is this continual education about what's being done. just like dealing with computers where months makes a difference with programs and capabilities and the changes are so astronomical in terms of speed. The same thing happens with regards to sustainable design. So one of the things I do in my office to stay current is the fact that I have vendors come in and teach classes in my office to my staff once a month, representing different areas of sustainable design or different products that exceed previous products I might have specified. In addition, I'm sure my people go out to conferences where these topics are being discussed, so that there's a little bit of a national perspective about what's being done, that we don't keep it within a 10-mile radius of what people are just doing here. So education becomes a critical component of staying current and being able to offer you best practices, because you can't learn that looking at a Google search. It's just more sophisticated than that. It's the same analogy. I went to my doctor's office and he had a sign on the wall saying, "I picked my degree over your Google search of your disease anytime." Well, the same thing holds true in every field. There's a rather extensive body of knowledge that goes into it, and being wise about the selection. Photovoltaic cells, the ability of the power they're able to absorb from the sunlight, changes on a yearly basis, because now the cells are more powerful than the ones we used to specify, and the ones that are coming up are going to be even better. But from an environmental point of view, there are certain products we don't need to stay away from, because what's good for securing power from the sun might not be good to the environment down below. So how do you kind of find that delicate balance where you're not doing any more damage? One of the interesting aspects to sustainable design is that some of the things that are being selected actually use more energy than if you stayed with the old solution. So therefore, we didn't achieve anything when we take a look at the global aspect of it, except we made each other feel good because we think we did something sustainable. So again, to answer the question, how I'm able to represent you the best is by staying educated, constantly getting the information available to me so I can offer you the best choices that are available on the day you ask me to do something for you.
Down to that.
From a contractor perspective, for us, we started really about 15 years ago. We were trying to, we were like, we've been around for 8 years now. We're going to be around for another 80. And it's like, we know we're trying to do what's right for the environment. How are we tracking this? How are we monitoring it? So for us, it was setting up a council, internal company, and having a director and really create some robust policies where we could track what we truly were doing and monitoring it. The low-hanging fruit we knew at the time, 15 years ago, we were all still, the low-hanging fruit being trash, construction trash, metals, what can be recycled, what can't. Well, we wouldn't really report that on a project-to-project basis. So that's when we implemented that policy where we were on every job, we're going to track certain things. Start off very small, just tracking, trash deferral. From there, it's going to the carbon footprint and a number of other things. Along with that, we had these robust policies that all our projects here by. We also had to implement a robust training program and a continuing education program as policy changes and legislation changes. How do we keep everybody educated? So for us, the tools we implemented, the biggest thing was the monitoring system and then having a set training program annually with other people attending.
The biggest challenge we have is connecting the dots to hardwiring what we create as an enterprise sustainability team, the goals we set, the programs we imagine, and what is or isn't happening on the ground. And that's about the relationship and the collaboration we build with our clients, but it's also about what our employees, our frontline folks, are prepared and able to do and willing to do. We're going to come back to the food story. and specifically our food emission reduction goals, we have a part, as I mentioned briefly, this partnership we have with the World Resources Institute. It's called Cool Food Meals. And we're the only US-based food service provider to adopt this program. Panera has done it, there are one or two others, but the program basically involves creating recipes that pass the WRI, World Resources Institute's criteria on two dimensions. One, the carbon intensity, the carbon profile, which compared to a regular recipe, 30% lower carbon. And then it also has to pass a nutritional screen. And we've had thousands of these recipes vetted and certified by WRI. And then once that happens, they get what's called a Cool Food badge, which is literally a logo. The challenge we have is getting these recipes menued, put on into the residential, collegiate, but retail, even patient menus, and motivating our chefs, our operators, and consumers to buy and to select these meals. It's happening, but it's not automatic, and we need a lot of marketing and education. We can talk about some of the training programs we're doing, but it's about literally connecting the dots between the programs we create and whether or not they happen on the ground. Same thing with plastic reduction challenge goals. As I mentioned before, it's easy to set a target of eliminating or reducing styrofoam. Or some other, or a plastic fork. But there has to be an engagement with the client and to figure out how the additional expense, and often is an additional expense, is going to get embedded into operations. I'll get calls at times from our operators or even the client, large clients often, say we want to transition to compostable food containers or cutlery or whatever. So great. Let me ask you a question. Is there a composting infrastructure, a composting system in the area where you're located? And that could be a municipal composter or industrial composter, or even at the right scale within the facility. I'd say 60 to 70% of the time I get that question, it's either I don't know or no. I said, well, listen, it's a noble goal to transition, but did you know that compostable offering, that product, is going to be 2 to 3x times what you're currently using? Ooh, no. I said, well, in my role, I'd love to promote the transition, but are we as Aramark or the client, depending on the nature of the contract, prepared to absorb that cost? It's going to end up in the same place. So actually, it's a waste. It's a waste of money. So there are real practical questions and implementation challenges that need to be navigated in partnership with the client to operationalize all this stuff. And it can be done. There are amazing success stories. Go to, every year we publish a progress report on aramark.com that talks in very practical terms about all the great achievements we have seen across in the healthcare setting and across our lines of business. But oftentimes those successes are the byproduct of a commitment and a journey that sometimes has fits and starts. And so it's about really focusing on the need to connect the dots and operationalize, hardwire these goals.
Keep it. I got 2 questions for you.
Sure.
One, still haven't answered the original question.
Oh shoot, what was the original question?
It's all
I was just having this discussion about cats. I don't like cats. I'm a big dog lover. So it's not even a debate for me. I had fish when I was a kid. There was one Oscar fish. He used to jump out of the tank and I put him back in and paint him in. But yeah, different dog.
Okay. And then follow-up question to what you just spoke about. Go ahead and get into the training initiatives. I'm curious, what you're doing internally, because the ideas are great, but you need them to actually do it and do it effectively, right? So how do you motivate internally through training initiatives, and then how are you doing the same thing with your clients as well?
So yeah, it's an important question. And these gentlemen touched upon it a bit. It really is an extension of what I was just talking about. So it was actually been a big gap for us. Real practical training for both our frontline staff, managers, and guests on what it means to integrate sustainability into day-to-day activities, day-to-day operations on the employee side, and choices on the guest side. We are proud to have a long-term partnership with Arizona State University that is a leading provider, not only a leading educator, but known across the world as a sustainability leader. And they have an organization embedded within ASU called Career Catalyst. They actually created a really neat training program for Starbucks a number of years ago, and I became aware of it and got quite intrigued. And we are partnering with them. We're actually about to roll out pilots. It's been a multi-year effort, actually. 2 training platforms, one for our employees and one for our guests. And these are not, we've all been through training programs. Training, you hear training, like, okay, how long is it going to take me? Can I click through without anybody knowing? I mean, you think of compliance. I used to be a compliance officer doing bribery and corruption training. Nobody wants to be trained. I would never do that. Well, you might, so we have to be trained. So, but this is really about both classroom and for the employees, classroom and personal training that is essentially designed as a day in the life of. And we actually have sort of cartoon-based, and we have real-life people doing it's very interactive. And we hope, we haven't launched it yet, we're on the cusp of, that it'll be something that is not a check the box, I have to get my training done, but it'll really inspire our folks to understand at very practical levels these questions about why should I be serving cool food meals? Why should we be thinking about transitioning to reuse programs? What do I do? How can I take advantage of the technology that we have in place to weigh the waste back to house? I mean, we haven't gotten into food waste too much, but there's some really neat technology that allows our folks to visualize and take pictures of the waste that they generate, connect the dots between the menu and the amount of waste, and make changes. For example, people don't like macaroni and cheese with, chicken, because for some reason there's a lot of macaroni and cheese, or there's a lot of pizza waste. People didn't like the pizza, they get screwed up making the pizza. You can know that intuitively if you can see it, but we actually have technology that allows us to track it. So there's a training program that we're about to roll out. But same thing on the guest side. We want to motivate folks to skip the straw. We want to motivate folks to bring their own cups and not rely on plastic water bottles. We want to motivate consumers. Think about residential dining hall. These kids going to college for the first time, free food. It's not free, but from their perspective, it's free and it's all you can eat, and we end up with a lot of food waste. So how do you want to shame anybody, right? We want people to eat what they want, but it's often they're all been there, eyes are bigger than the stomach, and we end up with a lot of food waste. So what we've created is, with ASU's partnership, or expertise, QR code-based point-of-sale vignettes everything from a little video clip, a little podcast, 2-minute podcast that sort of talks about the whys of plant-forward eating, or the benefits of reuse, and they're little flashes. We know that attention is limited, so it has to be instantaneous, and we are building these modules, these training modules, where we hope, literally at the point of sale or when a kid sits down, or not just colleges, workplaces as well. We actually, workplaces and hospitals, use the QR code, get that quick learning, and hopefully, if not in that moment, over time, influence and change, motivate more sustainable practices and behaviors. So we're really excited about that. We think it'll be a game changer, but training is essential, but it's got to be done in a way that really resonates and motivates you to learn.
Yeah, great points. Charles, I come over to you. What measurable benefits, both financial and non-financial, have you helped your clients to achieve?
The measurable benefits have to do with the systems that we end up putting in the building, and then demonstrating to you financially which systems we shouldn't put in the building because there's no return on investment. So, for example, all the new mechanical systems that are going into your buildings now, each generation is a little bit more energy efficient than the generation before. Additionally, the new air conditioning systems are all starting to use new refrigerants that are less harmful to the environment. So, over time, Freon was done away with years ago, and then the new chemicals, and now the new code just came into place. So this year, there are new refrigerant lines of the mechanical systems that you're putting into your hospitals and facilities. So there's a benefit there. The benefit is to the environment, and then the benefit is to your electric bill, because you're using more efficient equipment. Sometimes you try things and they don't work that well over time. I don't know if any of you ever tried some of the ice storage that was popular about a decade ago, where you created ice in the evening, power was generated in the evening when it was not peak use during the day, and then you use the cooling from the ice to help cool your facilities. That was so expensive to upkeep and keep going that the expense and the consequence of it outweighed the benefit. As I indicated before, I've done a lot of analysis with regards to solar panels up on the roof. And in some cases, the energy generated was so low that it was inconsequential, or the return on investment was 18 to 23 years at the beginning of the cycle. But that was ridiculous. Just the maintenance upkeep, to keep it going for that length of time, you never would have seen a penny of benefit to it. So if you're not going to see a benefit to putting in a sustainable element to your building, what was the purpose of it? Recently, last year in Broward County, I finished the first net positive building that exists in the county, where it actually generates more power than it uses. That's a bus transit facility located in Waterhill on 441. And there's 30,000 square feet of canopy that protects 20 buses that come in and where people move from one bus to the other. And I was able to design that using photovoltaic cells. So I was able to generate that, and by virtue of that, we were able to demonstrate within a certain period of time we could recapture the money. That's also an example of Broward County wanting to show by example that they were willing to invest in sustainable energy and design, using that as a point to the community to show what's possible. Each piece of what you're proposing to put into a building needs to be analyzed for a financial return on the dollar. Those are some of the documents that we see. Life cycle costing. How much does the piece of equipment cost, and how much does it cost to use over the course of 10, 20, and 30 years? And then you start to look at the statistics. What's my return on investment, and is it worth it? That goes with mechanical equipment, and then it goes with other equipment that you might end up using as well. So part of it is a social and responsible proponent to sustainable design, but there is a very definite dollar and cents that can be applied to every selection that we make. There are glues and paints that don't offer us. You know, medical facilities, when you paint a facility, you don't want that smell of paint that lingers for a week at a time. So that's sustainable. You use paint that has low VOCs, but it does cost a little bit more. But there's an example where the expense is warranted by virtue of the benefit to the employees and people in the facility.
Dog, cat, or fish. Dog. Cats are gonna prepare that today. Jonathan, we're building that up? Hit the original.
From my dogs in minutes.
Sure.
You know, from a contractor standpoint, you know, we see is that, you know, a lot of times whether you're going for rail, you know, there's really three main different categories you go for. There's rail, there's pretty low, there's they all have their own standards, and but you know, for us, when we're getting involved in projects, we really align our expectations, and we're trying to monitor those goals for them. You know, Charles used the example of low VOC paint. We are seeing from the industry standpoint, like that's kind of pretty much becoming the norm more and more. There's still smelly things out there that we have to deal with, but I mean, it's starting from an industry wide, it's starting to get more just as the norm. But you know, that's, from our standpoint, we have to help really monitor and track and ensure that the goals and the standards that are set from really the outset of the project is achieved for how we measure and track. As well as making sure that if we get a scenario with, you know, if you're in a construction project and maybe you're over budget, you're looking to cut or reduce the scope, or you don't want to take any kind of reduction in scope or anything that's going to hurt those type of goals. So we're the ones that are usually say, hey, you can do this, but if you do this, you're going to sacrifice some things on your sustainability goals. Are you okay with that?
Hold on to it for a sec. I got one more for you. Can you give an example of a financial challenge that you have encountered when trying to implement a sustainability plan?
That one's a little unique. So give you a perfect world scenario. We see this happen a lot more. A lot of times when companies and hospitals are looking to really establish their sustainability goals, the leadership will mandate, this is what we want to try to do. Well, in the construction process, a lot of times those jobs have been years in the planning. And they're planning budgets years in advance. So by the time the initiatives are set to go forward, that doesn't always translate down to the construction departments or their operators. So what happens is, you carry the budget, and there's a lot of times in construction, there is a premium for some of the things that you're going to try to achieve. But there's also a reward on the back end from your operating costs. And what happens a lot of times is when you start showing that premium, you get a lot of clients will have to make a tough decision because I don't know if I'm sure I want to spend that extra money, but what they're not thinking about is what they're going to save on the operating costs. Because on the operating side, usually you operate at certain, you know, let's say you operate $1 million a year annually for your maintenance costs. Well, let's say you go to a building and you're going to save $200,000. You're never reduce your operating maintenance costs. You're going to just reapply that to probably your older buildings. So it stays the same number, so it's hard to justify that. So what we see is a lot of times, you have an initial rollout from a client. They want, this building would be, gold. Well, okay, well, doing that, you got to do certain requirements around your HVAC system. Might be a premium of $3 million. When it comes time to say, okay, we want to go for the gold, maybe not. Maybe we didn't really budget for that, and we create that budget 3 years from now. It can be a change. But if you can get your mind around, all right, I'm going to pay a little bit more today, but over that unit's going to run, or that system will be running for 20, 30 years. You're going to recoup that fairly quickly. It's just hard to get your mind to think about that. Once you're long and gone with that, you're still going to reap the benefits of it.
Can I add a couple things? So, I'll make this point. To the extent that ROIs, quarter to quarter, budget reviews, even annual budget reviews, are driving this stuff, we're screwed. We're in this predicament because of that. And I have no hesitation saying that I've been in corporate world for 30 years, and I've been a pest on this stuff for a long time. I get it. I mean, I understand as well as anyone. I report to the board every quarter, to the executive team every quarter, and I have to justify and explain. And luckily, I've been in companies that understand and embrace what we try to do. But it can't be about just the ROI, because my story about the reuse program doesn't work. There are plenty of investments that do pay off if you have the right mindset. Remind me of another quick story. When I was at AstraZeneca, we were struggling with the capital investments we wanted to make for energy efficiency and other things at our manufacturing sites. And we were dealing with 18-month, maybe 24-month ROI targets, and it just wasn't doable. And I remember going to the head of operations, the executive VP of operations, who actually was my indirect boss, in a dotted line with him. And I said, David, I want to do X, Y, and Z. These ROIs, these ROI goals or targets are not workable. He said, well, what's your proposal? I said, give me a bucket of money that I can invest or allocate to worthy projects that may not meet our traditional ROI criteria, but can pay off over time. And pay off in tangible financial ways, but also demonstrate our commitment to being around for the long term, and deservedly so. So he got a little sick of me pestering him with this. He said, fine, how much do you need? He gave me a significant chunk of money in the 8 figures that I had, and we set up a process to allocate that money, and we communicated all around the world this money was available, and there was going to be a structure for reviewing these projects. And we got some really compelling projects with 3, 4, 7, 8 year even returns on investment, and we could approve the ones that were worth it. One day I get a call from the guy who my head of environment, and he said, you're going to get a call from the president of Japan. And I said, okay, what's going on? He goes, he's very angry with you. I go, he's very angry? I think I met him once 5 years ago. He's very angry with you. You're going to get a call. I said, well, what's the issue? He said, well, they sent in a proposal for the fund, and I rejected it. I said, okay. And he said to me, he goes, well, tell Alan he's got to approve it. I go, well, why did you reject it? He goes, it has an 85-year return on investment. So sure enough, the next day the guy calls me. He says, Alan, you said we were going to be sustainable, and I've got this great project. I played dumb. I said, well, okay, well, one of the criteria is the ROI. How long is the ROI? He goes, 82 years. I said, come on, give me a break. None of us are going to be working out. None of us are going to be around. The company didn't exist in 82 years. He goes, oh, fine, but you're being a hypocrite. So my point is, there's obviously the pragmatism that has to be applied across all this. And we have shareholders and other stakeholders who expect a return on their investment. We have a duty to our shareholders, of course, and I don't be Pollyannish about any of this, but there is a different lens that I think success depends on, which is not just about quarter to quarter, 18-month ROIs, if we really are going to do this. But for a company like Aramark, it's not just about us, it's about having that engagement, that understanding with our clients, and margins are small, and these are practical challenges, so it's tough, but we keep at it.
Yeah, the financial question about sustainability is definitely my top 3 most dreaded questions to get from a client. And there just is no good answer. You can't answer the question because you don't know how they're going to evaluate the actual answer or what their context is to that answer. And so my go-to typically is to ask the question like, oh, I'm late for a meeting and I gotta go send an email. All right, we're gonna end. One last question for you. So what advice would you give to others who are just beginning a program in environmental sustainability? And we're going to do some quick answers so we can get some audience questions.
The advice is to do it. The advice is to ask questions of the people around you. I mean, organizations like this bring different professionals from different locations together so that you can see what your fellow administrators and hospital engineers and people are doing. You learn and benefit from the experience from others and start to learn what worked for them, what didn't work for them, and take advantage of somebody else's experience. Otherwise, everybody always starts at the same time, goes through the same trial and error, ends up with the same scars on their back, and that seems to be silly and inefficient. So talk to each other, but again, individually, you have to decide what is your ultimate goal with regards to what you want to achieve. By virtue of having a clear goal and a clear vision of where you're going, then the path starts to fall into place and you start to follow the path to get to what your goal is. Recognizing that along the way that you have to stop, reevaluate, and make some course adjustments as you go through it. But do it, figure out a goal of what you want to achieve, speak to other people who have done it and help you along that journey, and move forward.
I'll be very simple about this. 3 Ps. Great partnerships. Has to be a partnership. Collaboration and engagement, as I said, our ability to deliver our sustainability goals is a direct function of the partnerships we create with our clients. Prioritize. There's a lot to do. There's a lot of opportunities. It can be overwhelming. You really have to go through, a careful enough. It can't be. Can't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, but you do need to prioritize. And persistence. This stuff is tough. It's a journey, and persisting and learning from failure, fail fast, take risks, but persist, and you will see the benefits and will be heartened by it.
I would say, it's great to put like this bold goal out there that you're going to do something in the next 5 years. But I would say start small. Set measurable, small goals. Celebrate those wins. If you're in a leadership position, find you someone that can champion because you got to support that person. That needs to get from the top leadership, and have someone that can really help set up the program and drive the goals that you want to have. I would say start small, celebrate the wins. It'll grow faster.
That's great advice, everyone. Thank you. So we have just about 9 minutes left. We'll go to the audience. If anybody has any questions for the panel.
I have questions. So I hear a lot about, as years pass, we learn more about sustainability and what things we have to do to improve the footprint, all of our footprints, the companies, even an individual's footprint. But the return on investment is not very good. Is it always organizationally driven to make the changes, or is the law changing along that's making the people that don't want to invest in it because it costs money? If you learn new things and you design new buildings, you build them according to what we know now. But in an 80-year-old building, are there laws that are making these people change so that we all adapt and we're all benefiting from the change, the changes that we need to make?
I'll start. The laws are changing. For example, in certain cities in South Florida, when you work on a project, you're obliged to achieve a certain level of LEED certification project to move forward. So the market is starting to dictate what is going to be required for the public with regards to building. Then what happens is that the vendors respond to it. It's basic capitalism. If the public's going to require energy efficient and sustainable building design, sustainable building products, and they know that they're not going to sell the ones that are not, the market changes to create and provide the public those products. And now we have the choice of which of several products to choose from to use in your particular projects. As opposed to in the past, you might have been down to one or a compromise of a hybrid system. But it comes, usually the direction comes from government, and then there are building codes that deal with existing buildings. Like I indicated before, right now, if you do work in a building that represents 50% of the value of the building, you're obliged to bring the entire building up to current codes. That's not only life safety code and the other standards within the building, but that's a sustainable aspect of it as well. So it goes hand in hand, but it is occurring. Whether you believe it or not, or whether you like it or not.
Yeah, we see it every day. Any other questions?
I got a quick one. Deshaun Roll, Walker, United States Navy. I know COVID changed our industry. Can you give me a positive change for each of your prospective industries that COVID brought forth?
Positive change. That's a tough one. You know, I think what I've seen is that changes that were being made pre-COVID did backslide a bit. We had initiated, it was before my time at RMR, we had initiated reuse programs, or at least migrating away from plastics. That then became unsustainable for short term during COVID because of practical health and safety reasons. We started to eliminate gloves in food service before COVID, and then of course, from a safety perspective, we had to reintroduce them. But now, there are lots of green shoots that you're seeing at a very practical level where we're sort of back to a mode of, let's think about this long term. But there's still consequences, and we're still emerging. Food waste is another example. There's a lot in our market, and a lot of food service companies, food waste is a big challenge and focus area from a cost perspective and from a climate perspective and other motivations. But then it became we couldn't. It was hard to calculate how many people would be there. Places closed, so you hope that while plateaued or actually slid back, I think the scale at which we're now moving post-COVID may be greater than it would have been had we just slowly ramped up without COVID.
I'm not sure I have a good response to that one. That's a tough question. I mean, from our standpoint, it was, from a construction standpoint, we got a lot smarter on how to like contact tracing and like things that you wouldn't think about normally, like construction workers, dirty old guys that have to build something, right? But kind of on the hygiene side, it's all right.
I'll give a very quick kind of practical response to that is, and it's impacted our daily operations pretty tremendously in the sense that, and it sounds very simple, but many of our clients who are unwilling to not meet in person now are persistent about meeting virtually. And so that has had a positive impact on not just our sanity, right? But also the traffic that's on the street and everything else. And I mean, there's drastic changes. I won't say names, but clients who refuse to do virtual anything, to now those same clients are like, oh, we don't need person. So, I mean, seriously.
It's good and bad.
Society crumbles as a result, but hey.
Yeah, it's good and bad.
Society is getting back to the point where they'll touch some things versus not another. But a few years back, nobody would touch anything. I have pictures that I used to use in the presentation of a woman in a skirt and high heels hitting the button for an elevator with the point of her heel. Because people refuse to touch anything that touched. So you've seen a lot of new devices in the industry that are touchless. You go into a bathroom, paper towel dispensers, soap dispensers, even water. You know, there are other elements where it almost became like a fantasy or cartoonish with regards to things that would occur that people won't touch. But it has affected the design. For example, we take a look at the efficiency in the flow of a waiting room or something like that, and how people walk in and how people walk out, and make sure that that path of traffic isn't as close together and they don't brush shoulders. So all those elements are kind of incorporated in what we do now by virtue of what we experienced during COVID.
Thank you.
Great question. Just give a round of applause for the panelists. Thank you all for hanging in there with us. Really appreciate it. Hand it over to Brian.
All right. All right, please help me go ahead. Brian, thank the panel. Let's thank Brian for helping to moderate. Again, who's coming in from REM to help work with us on this panel. I asked, as they're on our site at Boca right now, so they're a great partner of ours, so thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate it. I want to thank Alan. Alan, I have learned more about food tonight. I really have to thank you, and it's so funny because I am actually the executive at Boca over our food and nutrition department, and a lot of the statements you make are very true. They're choices, right? You know, as we want to promote better health and more sustainable things, we really do have to do our part as executives and leaders. So thank you for sharing tonight. And Charles, you and I have known each other for about a moment, and I'll leave it at that. But if you don't know Charles, poor guy's got to go home tonight, but you should know Charles. He is a dynamic counterpart. I mean, quite honestly, I think about, I've been at my hospital 18 years, and I think about how much I have really at times reached out to Charles. And when I was a newbie in facilities and construction, Charles was really somebody that helped me learn a lot. So I'm so glad to see you tonight. I'm glad you're doing well. And thank you to all of you. You all brought something tonight. Please do me a favor. You'll see the QR code up there. Part of us being able, again, to continue programs is to know what you want to hear and see, and it also helps support the educational credits for tonight. So please take a moment and do that. And we truly are very, again, happy that you all joined us tonight. We know for a lot of people who worked all day and come here to be a part of our family in the evening. It's time now to be able to head home to yours. Thanks for being a part of it. Come back again, join events. April 12th, don't forget, the student case competition. I'm telling you, I know it sounds kind of funny, but if you're a leader working today in a hospital or healthcare setting, doesn't matter what type of setting, you want to consider going to that. These students take a case study, a problem that we all deal with, and they come up with some incredible solutions. So if you want energetic, complementary consulting, show up on April 12th. I'm always amazed at the solutions they bring forth. And then April 15th, we're actually, like I said, starting new things. We're going to be doing a virtual event. So if you, again, want to take time and log on and get credits, April 15th, we'll be doing one on tech and AI. Again, thank you so much. Have a great evening. Get home safe, and we'll see you guys soon.
Thank you.
We're going to get a photo.
You gotta hurry. Picture?
If I could get whatever is on here.